What's up, nerds? My name is Corey Bergeron. You are watching Corey Bergeron Recordings, and we're back with a brand new video. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to use Arcade, the software made by the company Output. I'm going to show you how to use it to enhance your songs. If you haven't seen it, a couple months back, I made a video on this channel where I used only Arcade to create a song. And in that video, I go into a little bit more detail on how Arcade works. If you haven't seen that video, I recommend checking it out. Or if you are looking to find a video on how to use Arcade, the software, just in general, I recommend checking out that video before watching this because I'm going to kind of build off of that. So in front of me, I have the Pro Tools session for a song called Years Since Yesterday by the artist Redlight Blue. This song came out just over a week ago. People seem to be enjoying it, and I use Arcade a lot on this track, and it really kind of shaped how this track sounds. Now, this song was completely written and produced during this quarantine period. So I first heard the song as a phone demo with just an acoustic guitar and a voice. From there, we structured it out. I recorded some parts on my end. Mr. Redlight Blue worked on the song on his end. We sent some files back and forth, and eventually it turned out like this. This is the final Pro Tools session for the track. So at the core, this is an acoustic track. The main elements are the acoustic guitar and the voice. My job as the producer is to find the most interesting way to represent this song, and I want to add as much emotional depth to it, and I really want to put this song into its own world, all with the goal of everything being in this production contributing to make this song as emotionally impactful as possible. So one morning I woke up and I decided, why don't I use Arcade to build around the acoustic guitar and the voice to really put the song in its own world. That's what I did, and within 1 hour I added all of the Arcade elements that are in this track, and I'm really stoked with how it turned out. So let me play just the Arcade elements. So right here at the bottom, these tracks here that are in this yellowy orange color are the Arcade tracks. I'm gonna just solo them. I'll play from the second pre-chorus part into the second chorus. Cool, so you get the idea. Some looping kind of pad-like textures that have some melodic content, some rhythmic content. There's a bit of a wide variety of sounds there, but it's all kind of background sounds that really, again, enhance the emotional depth of this song. So let me play that same part of the song without the Arcade elements so you can hear it, and then I'll play them with it, and then we will go from there, and I will show you how I ended up creating this.
Got some time, would you spend the rest with me? We've got some time, would you spend the rest with me? Now we're dancing in the dark, trying to mend our broken hearts.
Cool, it doesn't sound terribly empty, but let's hear it with the Arcade parts.
We've got some time, would you spend the rest with me? Dancing in the dark, try to mend our broken hearts. I like yours next to mine. Stars.
Cool, so for me, it sounds fuller, it sounds more interesting, but all in a way that isn't distracting and doesn't take away from the acoustic guitar and the voice. So let's start to talk about how we got there. I'm going to break it down into 3 steps. They're very simple, but this is kind of my thought process. When I use Arcade, I've been doing some one-on-one lessons with some people. They asked how I use it in my productions, and I basically told them all the same thing and realized that I do the same thing every single time I use this, so I figured it would make a good YouTube video. So Step 1 is really simple. So open up Arcade and start looking for sounds that you think will complement the track. It doesn't matter if it's a rhythmic element, doesn't matter if it's a melodic element, or if it's just some kind of abstract ambient pad kind of thing. Make sure you're obviously locked to tempo and key, but find as many sounds as you think will fit your style. From there, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to commit those tracks. So I will pull them out to the entire length of the loop, and then I will just bounce them down to audio, and that's what you see here in front of me. All of these tracks originated in the Arcade plugin, but then I just committed them to audio just for easy file management. Pretty simple. Okay, so that moves us on to Step 2, and Step 2 is just finding out where all these sounds that you just committed to audio fit within your song. So usually in this phase, this is where I trim out some things that I realize probably probably don't fit. A lot of these loops have different melodic content that could work in certain sections of the song, or could also clash with the chord progressions, as well as they have different kind of rhythmic timing. So you can have a loop that has this triplet pattern that doesn't make sense when you have a straight chorus. So figure out where these loops fit for you, and get them all laid out across your track in a way that you think makes sense. And that brings us to step 3, which is making these sounds work for your track, blending them in, mixing them into your song. That is kind of 2 different parts. You can obviously EQ stuff to make it fit, throw some reverb on stuff to make it blend in with the track, but it's also getting creative with how you use these loops to work with your specific song. So let me show you 2 examples. So the first example is right here at the start of the song. So if you have listened to the song, you will hear that it starts with a bunch of different ambient sounds, and they're all arcade loops just kind of on top of each other. And I think that really sets the tone for the track. Now, during that, I want to add some level of interest. I want the listener to be fully engaged right from the get-go. So I actually ended up taking a loop that I use in full here throughout the rest of the song, and I just chopped up bits and pieces of it. And let me show you what that sounds like soloed. Okay, so it's just a bunch of random little melodic sounds. And let me play that in the context of the track. So again, this is the start of the song. Okay, so before the acoustic guitar comes in, you can hear that we're setting a tone and it adds some level of interest to it. To me, this reminds me of kind of like, I don't know, Radiohead or the 1975 or even like Bon Iver kind of stuff. So a little outside the box. This is just something I made in the moment. I didn't really think too much. I just made it, moved on. And yeah, so that's one element. Let me show you another element. You can hear here at the start of the pre-chorus, both the first and the second one, we have this sound that plays off the vocal. So there are vocals all the way up through the verses, and then when the pre-chorus starts, there's a little gap there. So I wanted to kind of subtly fill in that gap in a way that isn't super distracting, doesn't take away from what the song is, isn't adding some different melody line that, you know, is super memorable, but it's just filling in that space. And I came across this loop that I decided to call Wood. I don't know what it actually is called, but that sounds like this. In context, it sounds like this.
Might be fun when you can be next to me. We've got some time, would you spend the rest?
So again, you can hear there's a gap at the start of the pre-chorus, and that's where that wood sound comes in, and then we have the vocal, and then there's going to be another gap. Now I put the wood sound again, but this is the second pre-chorus, so I want to push the song forward. So I want to do something different than what I did in the first pre-chorus, so I decided to duplicate the track. You can see that I just duplicated it, didn't rename it. And on the duplicate track, I added Little Alter Boy, which is a pitch shifting plugin, and I turned it up 7 cents, which created a harmony. So the 2 tracks together, this is the original plus the duplicated track with the pitch shifting on it, sounds like this. Altogether, this second pre-chorus sounds like this.
Some time, would you spend the rest with me? We've got some time, would you spend the rest with me?
So you can hear the difference. It's not making an extreme difference, but you can hear that it's adding a ton of texture, a lot of movement and character and personality to the track, and that is what is really fun about using Arcade, because you can do this really, really simply. And I guess the last thing I'll touch on, which is still part of step 3, which is making these loops work for your song. You've decided on the loops you want to use, you've put them in the place that you want, but now it's kind of the final step of making them work completely in your track, and that is where you can kind of EQ, compress, add reverb. So you can see across the board, I added an EQ, just cutting out a ton of the low end because I didn't want that low end information in there. I seem to have copy pasted the same thing across everything. I have the Little Alter Boy, which is pitching stuff up a little bit here and there, which again is adding a little bit of a uniqueness to the loops, so it's not just stock arcade loops. I'm cutting out even more low end, really aggressive on cutting out this low end. And then also, I'm bussing most of these tracks a fair amount to a reverb and a delay, the same reverb and delay that's on the acoustic guitar, so the reverb, delay that's on the acoustic, the vocals, and the arcade tracks is all the same, which again puts everything into the same world. Consistent theme, you can hear me talking about that a bunch in this video, but it makes sense. And then lastly, on some of these tracks, I have this J37 tape emulation by Waves, and I really like using this plugin to create like a tape flutter effect. So let me play it without it. Let me play it with it. So you kind of hear this like shakiness to it. Let me exaggerate the effect so you can really hear the difference it's making. So obviously it sounds terrible with it higher, but a little bit goes a long way. To me it adds a little bit of like a lo-fi charm to it, which again, gets the song in the world that we want to get it in. So that is a really brief overview of how I go about using Arcade to enhance songs. I've done it across many songs at this point, and I plan to continue using it. I think it works really, really well for a song like this. That's clearly a very emotional song, and it is a very simple song in its arrangement. So you can really find cool loops to tuck away here and there in the song that just add a lot of emotional impact to it, which is good. So that is basically it for the video. Thank you very much for watching. If you plan on releasing music anytime soon and you want to get it on all the major streaming services, I recommend going and using the service DistroKid, because you keep 100% of your royalties. You just have to pay a small annual fee. And if you want to save 7% when you sign up for the first year, use my kid, www.distrokid.com/VIP/whatsupnerds. You will save 7% and it will support the channel, which is cool. If you are trying to improve your mixing and you want to download professional multi-tracks to practice with, I have 7 multi-tracks currently up on my Patreon. If you subscribe for 1 month on the Patreon, you can download all of them. These songs have been heard by hundreds of thousands of people, and if you want to see how I mix them, I have videos on this YouTube channel called In the Mix Videos. There is a playlist somewhere on my channel where you can check that out. And yeah, so if you want to improve your mixing, consider heading on over there, downloading some professional multi-tracks, and practice away. That is basically it for this video. Thank you very much. Use Arcade. I think it's good. Create more, create more, create more, and we'll see you in the next video.